Hello, all, and welcome to Murder at the Round Table. My name is Raf, and I am, of course, joined today by my awesome co host, Ipsha.
Hey.
Woo! So,
Woo.
before we start off, if you like what you're hearing today and you want to join the murder again to hear us discuss cases or, sometimes just vibe, then please take a
Mm-hmm.
moment to like, subscribe, follow on whatever platform you are on. We are, as of now, on Apple Podcasts as well. So,
Yes.
all you inferior Apple users, you can meet us there as well.
Yes.
I love how you just took that. Aren't you an Apple user?
Not well, I have a MacBook and
Yeah.
then I have a iPad, but I don't listen to Apple podcast on those.
Oh, okay.
Those are more for like working and like watching movies and stuff. My phone, I have a Samsung. I used to have an Apple, but
hmm
I got rid of it.
As you should. Avid Android user here. We'll put that on an argument maybe down the line. All right. So, I got a question for you, Akshay.
Sure.
Have you ever considered taking a deity to
Mhm.
court?
No. I know people who have tried to bring the church and things that happen between the individual and the church into court matters.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, it's a weird weird argument and weird thing to bring up in court for sure.
Yeah. So I wasn't this wasn't even on my radar. I was looking for like some sort of like bizarre crimes or something to cover for today. And imagine my surprise when I came across a few actual suits against gods and devils. So on today's unedited episode, we're going to talk about five kind of interesting and recent cases where the divine were called to court,
Hmm.
and yeah, we'll just see how that worked out.
That's fun.
All right. So starting off with just some lightning, we'll say that. Oh, and trigger warning, just the bizarre. That's it,
The
really.
bizarre.
Yeah, nothing crazy. Nobody was smited, though some people kind of feel like they should have been, but I don't know. That's a someone else's job, higher than my pay grade. I have no comments to make there. All right. So case number
All
one,
right.
we've got a lady, Betty Penrose v.
Mm-hmm.
God. So in 1969, Arizona attorney Russell T. Tansey, filed
Mm-hmm.
for a $100,000 lawsuit on behalf of his secretary, Betty Penrose.
Mm-hmm.
What was the claim? Well, the claim was that God was negligent. He let lightning strike her house. And the logic for this claim was that recently, singer Lou Gottlieb had deeded his California ranch to God like the week before this incident.
Mm-hmm.
So, technically speaking, God owned property. So, by that logic, God was also subject to, the laws of the United States. The result
Mm-hmm.
of this claim was that the court said God couldn't legally own property, so they struck down that initial case that he was using as the basis of his claim,
Mm-hmm.
and they struck it down because, well, he couldn't take possession. Obviously, he can't have
Right.
possession of the land, right? So that got dismissed. So then this lawsuit got dismissed, and then God walked away unscathed. And yeah, and that's just the warm up.
Okay, so let me get this right. So somebody put a deed saying that this land is God's.
Yeah.
And then this entire new property, it's unrelated to this deeded property. It's
Yeah.
a different
So
party.
these are unrelated cases. Yeah.
Right. And that lady was upset, and the attorney wanted to sue because this unrelated property got hit by lightning.
Yeah. So her place got hit by lightning and
Yeah.
got damaged. So
Yeah.
then the attorney was suing for the damages, right?
Right.
100,000. And his precedence for making this suit was the fact that this other person was
Yeah.
able to assign his deed to God.
Okay.
But that got dismissed. So this got dismissed.
That's valid.
Yeah.
So, which god was he trying to sue? Because, like,
Oh, like the Christian God.
yeah, see, that's the wrong one. I feel like if he
That's the wrong one.
if he sued Zeus,
Hmm.
that might have like held some validity, because he's got the thunderbolt in his hands. He just sued the wrong god.
He just sued the wrong God. Well,
In my
uh,
humble opinion, I mean.
knowing what I know about just like Greek myths and stories, I feel like him and possibly this lady too would have gotten like a second lightning strike, knowing the temperament of Zeus, just looking at like stories.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So they sued the wrong god. That's why they probably got away with not getting struck by lightning again. That's just my
Uh-huh.
take. But had they sued the right god, they might have. Zeus would have been like, you know what? We don't need to take this to court. Let me figure this out on my own.
So then is isn't it then true that they sued the right one because they walked away?
Well, they walked away because they sued the wrong one.
No, no, no. I'm saying that they got to keep their lives.
Yeah,
So
because it's the
for them
wrong
to
guy.
Oh man, Ipsha just wants people struck by lightning out here. Okay, I see how it is.
I'm just trying to put this into proper perspective. You sue the wrong guy, obviously
Mm,
nothing's gonna happen. It's like, oh, the wrong guy. Maybe it was like two guys. In theory, it's like maybe you're
mm,
suing this person because like they put your house on fire. There's two guys in a yellow jacket. You sued
mm,
the wrong guy who's wearing the yellow jacket. Nothing's gonna
mm,
happen. You're gonna walk away. Nothing's gonna happen to that guy. Nothing's gonna get happen to this guy. Had you sued
mm.
the right guy in the yellow jacket, you could have got the money or struck by, I don't know, another fireball.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. I see. Well,
See?
we'll keep that in mind as we continue to the next couple cases.
So the lesson of this story is make sure
Uh,
you're suing the right god. Let's
yeah.
start there.
Make sure you're suing the right God. Okay. All right. Our second case of this, um, is we have Gerald Mayo v. Satan and his staff. So Gerald Mayo was an
Mayo?
inmate. Mayo, yeah,
M.
Mayo,
Okay, Mayo. Okay.
yeah, was an inmate from Pennsylvania, and man sued Satan. So what was the claim? The claim was that the devil had caused him misery, had placed obstacles in his life, had violated his constitutional rights, and because of that, he had ended up where he was. So he even went as far as to file for something called informa pauperis. No,
Mm-hmm.
informa pauperis, yeah, which is court Latin for like I'm broke, but I've got a point here. And this was the judge's response. The jurisdiction unclear. Uh, Service of process was non-existent, and service of process. Oh yeah, you nodded your head like yeah, you already know what that is.
I feel like here in Canada it's
Uh-huh.
called something else, but I kind of understand where it's going.
Okay. Yeah, so what it translates to is essentially they could not let Satan know that he was being sued. There was no way to let him know that he was being sued, so he can't be sued.
Right.
And the precedence for that is there's actually a story called The Devil and Daniel Webster. It's a
Mm,
fictional story, but it kind of uses the same point.
yeah.
So the judge is like, okay, well, this is all ridiculous, but you know what? Here's a precedence if we want to actually play this out.
Hmm.
So yeah, the verdict of all of that was the case was dismissed. But all of this was not for naught, if that makes sense. It kind of became immortalized as like a legal example for like legal students, just as a reminder, to always tell the marshal where the devil is. If you're gonna go and sue somebody, you got to know where they are, where they live, that kind of thing. But yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. But like, what did the devil do? Like, why is he blaming the devil? Like,
he's
what's wrong with him? What went wrong with him?
well, like the whole concept in Christianity, um, and in most like religions that have kind of like a devil figure and of sort, right? Is that you're being tempted to do evil, you're being corrupted and whatever. So this guy says, "Hey, the devil made me do these things. He made my life miserable, and that's why I'm in this place. So actually, you know what? He should be sued for everything he's done to me."
What's interesting to me is that obviously I don't know much about this guy, never heard
Yeah.
of him before. Oftentimes, us in society, we often, first and foremost, we blame other people for our misery. Be like, ah, shit, I got into this car crash because of this other person.
Hmm.
And my go to would not be like, oh, fuck, Satan really got to my head and that's why I crashed my car or whatever. Um, so I find it really interesting that his go-to was to blame Satan. He's not blaming other people for his problems. He's not even blaming God for his problems. He's kind of like, I'm just going to go to that one person that I know is bad.
Hmm.
Um, my knowledge on Satan is very limited. So I'm thinking,
Well, here's the thing. Like, the devil can tempt you as much as he wants. Your job is to say no.
but isn't the temptation through a messenger? Like the devil's not going to appear in ashes and being like, you do
Well,
this right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So, like, that's my point. Like, wasn't there people involved in this person's life that he could have sued? You get my point?
Oh, I see where you're taking this. Okay, okay. You know what? I, okay. Yeah, there you go. You have the addresses of the people who messed up your life. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. You sue them. You sue them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's people in your life, and oftentimes we blame people, right?
Hmm.
You sometimes, even if like you're really depressed and stuff, you might go blame God and or the church or whatever it may be.
Hmm.
It's wild to me that he's like, okay, this is the devil. Okay, it's fine. He's evil, so he's doing things that are evil to other people,
Hmm.
but he's not coming himself like himself physically, he's sending these evil messages through a person. So
Hmm.
wouldn't it make sense to sue the people?
So just like the previous case,
You're suing the wrong
the wrong
wrong
person.
entity.
Oh my God, I love this. I love that this is where we're at with this. But yeah, he would definitely have had more of a case and would have
I
actually
think
carried
so.
forward. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And also, what year did this happen? Because I'm surprised that there wasn't any sort of, or maybe there was. whether he was fit, mentally fit to make this claim.
This was well, it was decided upon in December 1971.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So did he get mental health help?
this is 1971. Like,
So probably not.
yeah, no, I'm
Very
not expecting
limited.
it. Alrighty. So our third case here, we have Pavel Mircea, I hope I'm saying that correctly, v. the Romanian Orthodox Church. Okay, so this one is like, okay, just from that title, he should have had some grounds until you hear what the claim is. So in 2005, a Romanian inmate, Pavel Mircea, he filed a lawsuit against the Romanian Orthodox Church on the grounds that it
Mm-hmm.
represented God and God failed him. So, see, this guy takes the approach that you just kind of talked about like, okay, go after the messengers. So that's what this guy does. He goes after the church,
Mm-hmm.
which to him he's saying like, okay, that represents God. So he argued that his baptism was a binding contract to protect him from evil, which is not entirely true. I have no idea where he got that sentiment. But, anyways, binding contract. So instead, he lives his life and now he's convicted of murder. And he said that God breached the agreement of that binding contract because he was not protected from evil. What do you think the court's response was to this?
Get out of here. If I was the judge, I would be like, go home.
Yeah, for murder. So this is definitely God's fault. Um, yeah, so the court's response was exactly that. Yeah, get the heck out of here. But, if we really want to be super technical, they were also like, all right, fine. You want to put this on the table? God is not a person under the law, and God does not have a legal address.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, if you want to sue someone, you need their address, okay? And trust me, people will pay you big bucks if you manage to find where God or the devil reside, all right?
I agree.
There's a lot of people who have suits that they would love to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Class action lawsuit on both fronts.
Looks like it. um,
Mhm.
so, like I said, I've heard about people at the beginning of the episode. I said that I've heard people bring up church into the
Yeah,
matters of court.
yeah.
And the reason why these cases don't fall through is because what happens between you and God has nothing to do with the court system.
Hmm.
So, oftentimes in domestic cases, a partner might be like, this person promised me these things, vowed these things in front of God. Well, that's between you and God. That has nothing to do. There's a whole separate legal system of marriage that we go through. It's why we sign the certificate.
Yeah,
um, you are protected by the court in terms of that certificate. Whatever vows you make in front of God to your partner or in front of other people has nothing to do with the court system.
hmm,
Same thing here. I don't know, like, there's there binding contract with God. There's a lot of things that God promises. But that doesn't mean that we go out of our way to commit these crimes because there's a promise. That doesn't make sense. A lot could be said because Jesus died on the cross, and
hmm.
a lot of memes, and we see these comedic sketches and whatnot about Jesus dying on the cross for us and stuff like that. And they're bizarre things, but it doesn't mean that we go out and sin
Yeah,
and commit crimes.
yeah.
Um, or else this world would be one hell of a place if you make
Well,
those arguments.
in this case, what he was arguing was that the evil that made him commit the crime He was not protected against it.
It goes to the same thing. We say these things that, God will protect you. It's philosophical. It doesn't mean that you should go out and commit crime. It's more so that you have some sort of compassion to be a good person
Hmm.
and do good things in the sake of humanity or whatever your religion is. And yeah. So he did sue the right person. Maybe
Hmm.
his take on it was not r- correct. Um, as in,
Uh, yeah, in this particular case, even if it was just to the church, like I'd also argue that the suit would just fall through anyways, because
yeah,
like, you
because
know,
there is no promise.
mm,
There is no promise of such, and you don't have to be part of a church or part of any religion to know that God's not going to protect you. There is no contract made because you went through such and such rituals. Um, yeah, like don't be stupid. Don't commit crimes and then blame God
mm,
for it. That was your personal choice.
yeah, I guess the contract that he is referencing is more like, you know, it's more about your family raising you in the faith kind of thing, right?
Right.
And that you'll be a good person. That's what you're aiming to be. You understand, the nature of Christianity and what it means to be a Christian and all of that more than anything.
So
Um,
somewhere in the
mhm.
line, his family didn't teach him that.
They might have taught him, and then he just chose to ignore it. Everyone has free will.
Right.
Yeah, you
But
you have your ability to just be like, screw it. I'll.
so I feel like we could go down the argument that he might have sued the wrong party.
Who do you think he should have sued?
He could have sued his parents for not teaching him the right things.
Okay, that only works. No, well, it would never work, but the case would last longer if it was like, oh, they taught me the opposite. If he could prove
Yes.
that they taught him the opposite or they caused him like so much trauma in his life, then maybe taking that approach, he could be like, oh, reduce my sentence or something like that. But anyways,
So there's a couple of things that need to happen. First of all,
hmm,
he needs to prove that there is some sort of, in terms of getting baptized, what that means and what is that promise that is being made, and
hmm,
what is the parents' role in this, what is his role in this, and what is the church's role in this. He needs to
hmm,
provide that evidence. If that is in the Bible or if that is like a little brochure that he got in the time of his baptism, he needs to provide that. The next thing that he needs to prove is that his
yeah,
family has never taught him what it means to be a good person. Hence why his committing the crime, the murder,
hmm,
was he had no idea that was he shouldn't be doing that in terms of religion.
okay,
Then the counter argument that the prosecutor could make is that, well, this is the law, you shouldn't be doing it regardless. Then he could be like, well, I didn't know that either. But he has to prove all of that in order for him to get away with this.
mm,
Yeah.
makes okay, makes sense.
But yeah, in this case, yeah, maybe the wrong party did get sued. I'm seeing
Mm.
a pattern.
Granted, and for anybody listening, we are putting this out there as if somebody actually wanted to have a claim that, withstood longer, not necessarily passed, but
Hmm.
just had more merit, this is
Hmm.
how they would tweak it.
Yes.
Um, Neither one of us are lawyers or law students or anything. We're just common sense.
I could have been, but I don't want to.
And I don't feel like arguing in front of people.
I and
Oh, and
lawyers do a lot.
the studying.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no. Okay,
Okay.
so we'll move on to the next one. This one you will have. Probably a lot of insight into, like definitely more than me. I kind of hinted it, hinted at it,
Hmm.
the last time that we met up. So this is Chandan Kumar Singh,
Hmm.
v. Ram, and so in 2016 we have the Indian lawyer Chandan Kumar Singh. So he sued the Hindu god Ram.
Hmm.
His claim was that Ram mistreated his wife, Sita, and disrespected women, starting a long-standing cultural precedent. In quotes within the Ramayana, oh, sorry, Ramayana.
Hmm.
Uh, so it's well known that Ram asked Sita to prove that she was pure after he rescued her from the clutches of the demon king Ravana.
Hmm.
So he's this guy says like he did not trust Sita, and this is a direct quote from him. Ram's treatment of Sita shows that women were not respected even in ancient times. I am aware that the case may sound ridiculous to many, this suit that he brought up, but we have to discuss this part of our ancient religious history. I will file a case again because I really believe that Indians have to acknowledge that Ram mistreated Sita. Furthermore, we can't talk about women's rights today if we ignore how our deities treated women in the past. I feel like you can guess how this went. Um, so the court dismissed the case as impractical
Hmm.
for many of the reasons prior. In addition, many reasons similar to like the prior cases we've talked about. In addition, Singh was labeled as a publicity seeker by his fellow lawyers. There was one who filed like a defamation suit against him. There were people calling for his license to be revoked. It all makes sense. And throughout all of this, he's like, "Look, like I worship Ram, but I can't ignore how Sita was treated." So, how do we
This is
approach
such
this?
a weird one. It's like, first of all, why? Second of all, like,
Mm,
here's the thing I don't get. If you want to talk about like women's right, why are we going into the past? Why are not we like working with what issues we have in the present and
hmm
moving forward with that issues? What makes a man go so back into the past and being like, this particular man who wasn't even human, first of all, he
mm,
if you want to believe, there's two arguments, and I'll come back to them. He was Lord Vishnu in human form, and his wife Sita was Lord Vishnu's wife, Lakshmi, who came as human form. They come
mm.
together every time they come to Earth. So they weren't even human, but I'll get to that argument later. Why are we picking these two? There are so many men in Indian history that disrespected women. That could have that could have been a better case. I can. Wrong person, Raf.
Wrong person.
Wrong person.
Yeah.
Um so the reason why I say like uh, why I bring up the argument that um they're not human is that Rama knew. So the argument why the mistreatment, let me explain to those who might not know. So, Rama, his brother, and his wife went into exile for a long period of time.
hmm
During this time, Sita was kidnapped by a demon king, Ravan,
hmm
and Sita was held captive for many, I want to say months, for a very long duration of time. And I'm really sorry, I don't know how long she was held captive for. So, Rama, with the help of Hanuman and a um, bunch of others, he was able to rescue Sita
hmm
and killing Ravan. So The disrespect here is that when Sita returned to Rama, it is believed that Rama made Sita do like a fire test where she had to walk through or put herself through this blazing fire to prove that she was chaste, she didn't cheat, and because she was held captive by another man for a really long period of time.
Hmm.
So that was the disrespect part.
Okay.
However, um, Rama, being the divine being that he is, knew that she was chaste, that she did not cheat, and had probably knew the conditions that she stayed in. So that's where the disrespect came from, is that Rama made her do this.
Hmm.
However, we actually don't know if he actually made her do it or if there was other forces, because the original text of Ramayana that was written by Sage Valmiki ends with Rama getting Sita back. Everything that was written after that was from other authors. So we actually don't know what happened after. He kind of left it off, they lived happily ever after kind of thing. Um,
Okay.
But everything that we know that happened after may have come from other authors and other
Hmm.
sources that we don't know. This is my what I know.
Hmm.
Um, in my opinion, the pressure actually came from society for Sita to go through the fire pit. It wasn't Rama's choice because, of course, like I said, he's a higher being and he doesn't. He already knew,
Hmm.
and to in a way it's to say like to make people shut up. Sita went through this.
Hmm.
It was like a kind of like a way for them to being like, okay, we
Oh, okay.
yeah,
That's what you mean when you're saying like the there was a societal pressure.
yeah.
Because I was wondering if the societal pressure was like outside of the story. So the authors, because you're saying like this portion of the text comes after, so
Hmm.
the author's own biases about how they viewed women would now spill into the writing, or no?
It could be from like other authors for sure,
Yeah.
because after this point, there's some things like kind of like when we do research, there's a lot of things that are like same when we read about. It's like, okay, this article says this article says this, it's the same as the other one. It must have happened. But there's like
Mm,
little details where we're like, we don't know where this comes from. Um, and it could be true, it might not be true, and that's what I'm talking about. We don't know exactly what happened. We know the majority of the story, but there are some blanks and gaps in there because it's coming
gotcha.
from different authors, and depending on who the author is a different story. Um, but yeah, she did go through a pit of fire. What convinced her to do it? What we're taught is that she decided to do it because she wanted to prove society and get society to stay quiet and shut up about her being a chaste woman.
Hmm.
But whether if that Rama specifically told her to do it or if it was someone else, that is not clear. But it would make sense because, like, if you think about it in this way, would Rama have fought in a war with Ravana if the thought was like, oh, she might not be chaste or pure or faithful, right? He went
True,
through all of
true.
this to get his wife back
Hmm.
just to make her being like, you might not be this who you say you are, so go through the pit of fire. There's a lot of other details and there's a lot of flaws, and like I said, depending on whose story you read, who the author is, it's a different story. And yeah, you could have 20 versions of what happened on this specific incident. So I'm just telling you what I know and what I believe to be true. But
Hmm.
again, in going back to this lawyer, I think he sued the wrong person or wrong deity.
Gotcha.
There's more. 100%. I agree. There is so much in Indian history where women have been disrespected. I just don't think this is the right one. Yes, Sita had to go
Mm.
through a lot. Um, Women anywhere in this world in time of history had to go through a lot.
And
And
sorry, just to continue that, if you're going to make a case of like you doing it for women's rights, then you should be looking more at like current laws.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
There's really good examples, and this wasn't a great one. Raf, your last the next one is your last one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Can you,
Um,
I'm gonna give you a few seconds to look at it, and you let me know if it's the wrong person got sued or the wrong deity got sued.
well, actually, in this case, well, first of all, it's people suing gods, but in this case, it was actually done to prove a point. It wasn't necessarily about carrying the suit itself.
Was
So,
it the right god?
yes, but once I tell you what the point is, it'll be like, oh, makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna finish off with Ernie Chambers v. God.
Mm-hmm.
So this is now going back to 2008 Nebraska. We find,
Directly v god.
yeah, directly v. God. Most of these have been directly v. God. Um, we find State Senator Ernie Chambers suing
Mm-hmm.
God.
Okay.
And the point of him going through this motion, I guess, was he was trying to make a point.
Okay.
Wait, I just said the same sentence. But the point is, everyone deserves access to the courts. That's what he was trying to showcase.
Okay.
So the request he made was a permanent injunction against God's harmful activities.
Okay.
So harmful activities, we're talking about natural disasters.
Okay.
And the issue in this case was, you guessed it, it's popped up a few times. Um, God has no mailing address. The court initially dismissed it for lack of service, right? God can
Mm-hmm.
be told he's being sued. But Chambers countered with something I find kind of interesting. He's like, if God is omniscient, then he already knows he's being sued to get
Mm-hmm.
around that whole that you know issuing papers and all that. So now there were two responses that were filed. One that was from God allegedly, and I have it here. I'm just going to read it out pretty quick. So, God hereby enters a special appearance to challenge the jurisdiction of the court for each and all of the following reasons. 1. No proper and sufficient service of summons has been had upon God. 2. Complainant is barred by the doctrine of collateral estoppel from asserting God's existence after a lifetime of denying his existence. And 3. God does not issue terroristic threats, but he will visit an appropriate punishment upon the blasphemous complainant by seeing that he is removed from office next year. Signed, God. Uh, for a while, that response was like a mystery response. No one knew where it was from, but after a while, we found out that it was actually an attorney in Corpus Christi, Texas, called Eric Perkins, who just submitted that as a response. And then there was like one other one that was also submitted. But ultimately, the appeal was dismissed. The court ruled that we settle real controversies, not hypothetical ones,
Right.
because the whole point of this was just to make a point, anyways. But still, the message that he wanted to express out there was expressed, which is that there is no case that is too big or too small or too divine to question, and everybody has the right to the justice system, to the courts.
Everybody has access to the court.
Hmm.
whether the court has time for what you're trying to put forward, or if you have the right information is a whole different question. But yeah,
Yeah,
everybody does.
everybody has that right. So after looking at all of these cases, I came across this article that kind of summarizes the reasons why they wouldn't work. And it quotes a constitutional attorney, Anthony Zarella, from Massachusetts, and he comes up with like a few points that I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, as well. So the first thing is sovereign immunity. If you really wanted to play with this idea, even if God exists,
Hmm.
he'd be immune forever. Infinite reign equals infinite legal shield.
Right.
Though there are exceptions that could apply, but it doesn't really matter because you can't take a deity to court, so you'd never know.
Hmm.
The second thing is service of process, which is mentioned a few times. You can't
Hmm.
sue someone you can't serve, so there's no address, no authorized agent. So, for anybody listening, if you know somebody is after you and they're going to come for you for damages, just disappear. Pack up and disappear, and they can't sue you for damages,
See,
apparently.
someone's tried this, and I know because I talked to someone about it.
Yeah.
Um, so this person was trying to get out of jury duty.
Hmm.
So he provided evidence, or his family provided evidence that this guy passed away. This
Hmm.
man flies to a different city for a little bit, but
Hmm.
he has other matters in the same court that he's provided evidence that he was deceased. Ongoing matters. So next time when he comes back, he'll be like, "Hey, I gotta get do this, this, and
No.
this."
Yeah.
They're like staring at him, and be like, "You were dead. Like you're deceased. Everything that you had ongoing is dismissed, or
Hmm.
we're not going to deal with it. It's case closed."
Hmm.
So yeah, so if you want to like leave, but if you have ongoing matters, they're going to also leave
Leave with you.
with you.
Yeah. And just on the point of jury duty, like the I think the best advice I've ever gotten about jury duty is when they're screening, just be honest. If you really don't want to do jury duty, just be entirely honest about how you feel about things. When they ask you, is there anything about your opinions that could, influence you on this case, just say everything. The Pope doesn't count. The church doesn't count. So you can't
Mhm.
sue the church in a matter where you're trying to sue God. Because somebody like the Pope or like the church or any other like religious organization, they represent their deities in a more spiritual
Mhm.
way or carry authority within their realm of like the religion or the church, but not legally speaking. Next is remedial harm. So you have to prove legal injury, and more importantly, well, maybe not more importantly, but just as importantly, that the court can do something about said injury. You know, if you want damages, God does not have a bank account. So your payment is going to be zero.
Mhm.
So just keep that in mind. And the last thing is just privilege. So divine actions can't be judged by mortal standards, being literally the definition of divine authority. So,
Right.
it's you can't do anything about it. Not
Yeah.
in this way.
Mhm.
But like we've mentioned a few times, like Ipsha has aptly mentioned a few times, make sure you're going after the right person. You might not be able to go after the deity, but hey, you got some family members that you're okay burning bridges with, go after them,
You're gonna get monetary value out of a person, but the Pope is off limits
Unless you actually have something directly
with the Pope. Yeah.
against with that person, yeah.
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, you can sue God, Satan, or Mythic Kings or whatever, but unless the divine starts checking mail, you're probably getting your case dismissed. But still, honestly, I admire the audacity. You
So, yeah, God sometimes misses out on prayers, so let alone your um, cases
Yeah.
or complaints, legal complaints to the court. So, I don't know. Maybe in like a few thousand years, it'll get be God might find it, but his
Hmm.
date to serve is long gone.
Exactly. All right. Well, yeah, that's everything for me. Do you have any final thoughts to add?
Honestly, just sue the right person.
Just sue the right person. Lives
That
words to
should
live by.
be the name of this episode. Sue the right
Sue the right
person.
person. Yo, that's actually better than what I was thinking.
What were you thinking?
Suing the divine. And
Uh,
like two question marks at the end there. But considering like we've talked through all of this, yeah, sue the right person. I like that.
Sue the right person.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, thanks for your time, y'all.
Hmm.
I hope you enjoyed our little chat today and will join us at the round table next week. Again, if you liked what you heard and want to hear more, please, please, please take some time to comment, like, subscribe on your platform of choice.
Hmm.
And I know I said please a bunch of times, but that's because I love you guys and I want to see more of you and more comments.
Yes.
Been nice. And yeah, okay. We'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.